Alex was merely a name that slipped from my husband's lips during our dinner conversation. He's having a hard time with the material, Ethan remarked, taking a sip of his wine. I will be providing him with tutoring sessions after class several times each week. He's a decent young man, simply requires direction. I nodded, my mind wandering elsewhere. It was only until that first evening when Alex arrived at the house. As I stood in the kitchen, the sound of the door creaking open reached my ears. And then I laid my eyes upon him. Lofty. Stillness. He was younger than I anticipated, just shy of his 20s, with keen eyes that appeared to absorb everything in their gaze. He offered a courteous smile as Ethan made the introductions. Madam Bennett, he murmured gently. A pleasure to make your acquaintance. His voice resonated softly, steady and serene, yet laced with an intriguing undertone. I returned the smile, making an effort to avert my gaze. They entered the study for the lesson, while I retreated to the kitchen, yet his presence remained palpable in the air. As Ethan escorted him to the door, I happened to walk by. For an instant Alex's gaze met mine. And within those eyes there lingered an essence, something that transcended the gaze of a student directed at his teacher's wife. It happened in an instant. Just a fleeting moment. Yet it lingered in my mind. The departure left the house enveloped in an unusual stillness. For reasons I couldn't quite grasp, those eyes lingered in my thoughts, refusing to fade away. When Alex returned, there was an unmistakable shift in the atmosphere. I made an effort to ignore him as he strode by and entered the study. I busied myself in the kitchen, feigning indifference to the weight of his presence. As the lesson drew to a close, Ethan found himself needing to answer a phone call. As Alex stepped into the kitchen, "That has a delightful aroma," he remarked, gesturing toward the pot simmering on the stove. "What dish are you preparing?" I pivoted, a touch taken aback. "Only pasta," I replied, a subtle smile gracing my lips. "Just an ordinary occurrence." He rested effortlessly against the counter, arms folded with a relaxed demeanor. "Seems special to me," he remarked, his voice airy yet his gaze, it was anything but nonchalant. We engaged in conversation for a brief moment. Concerning culinary delights. Concerning the institution of learning. Concerning matters of no significance. Yet, the manner in which he absorbed every word. The manner in which he truly regarded me as I spoke. It had an unmistakable quality. A sense of divergence. It was nothing like the courteous banter I had grown accustomed to. It seemed deliberate. As Ethan made his way back, Alex adjusted his posture, his face settling into a mask of neutrality. As he stepped through the threshold, he cast a fleeting glance back in my direction. Only for a moment. That second stretched out, lingering far longer than it ought to have. A recurring motif emerged. After wrapping up his lessons with Ethan, Alex would meander into the kitchen. Initially, it was merely a matter of minutes. A brief conversation as I organized my space or brewed a cup of tea. Yet, as time passed, those minutes stretched into eternity. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, his gaze unwavering. We would discuss literature, melodies, and the destinations we dreamed of exploring one day. Questions Ethan no longer poses to me. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan hurriedly departed for an unforeseen faculty meeting, just moments after the lesson concluded. "Would you mind seeing yourself out?" he said to Alex as he reached for his keys. Alex gave a subtle nod, and then it was merely the two of us. The stillness weighed more than it ought to have. "So, you have a genuine passion for cooking?" Alex inquired gently, easing into the conversation. I chuckled softly. "It's merely a way to pass the hours." "I don't believe that," he stated, his voice calm yet resolute. "It appears you invest more of your essence into endeavors than others might perceive." I stood still, caught in a fleeting instant. Due to its simplicity, the sentence stood out. Yet, it had been years since anyone had uttered words like those to me. I gazed at him, and for the first time he was more than merely a student to me. I observed a young man who was aware of all the details my husband had long overlooked. It filled me with fear. Yet it also ignited a spark within me that I believed had long since faded. When he finally departed, he didn't merely utter a farewell. He offered a smile, leisurely, with an air of understanding, and remarked, Until we meet again. And I found myself eagerly anticipating it. The afternoon was marked by a steady rain. Ethan found himself racing against time, ensnared in the clutches of a relentless traffic jam. It was merely Alex and I in the house, biding our time as we awaited his arrival. I extended an invitation for tea. We gathered around the kitchen table, the gentle patter of rain serenading us from the windows. We conversed as we had come to do regularly. Yet this moment carried a distinct weight. Our words were punctuated by longer silences, lingering glances that I struggled to maintain, each one sending my heart racing. In a moment of synchronicity, I extended my hand toward my mug, and he mirrored my action. Our hands met. It ought to have been inconsequential, a mere fleeting touch. Yet he remained still for a moment. His fingers lingered against mine, radiating warmth, unwavering, intentional. I remained steadfast, not retreating. In that fleeting moment, silence enveloped us both. The atmosphere weighed down upon me, more subdued. Then he smiled, gentle, nearly bashful. "You're cold," he murmured softly, his thumb gliding gently across the back of my hand. My breath hitched. I parted my lips, ready to utter a word, any word. But just as I was about to speak, the unmistakable sound of Ethan's car rolling into the driveway shattered the stillness. Alex withdrew his hand, his demeanor serene and collected, as if nothing had transpired. Yet as Ethan strolled in, offering us a casual greeting, my mind couldn't help but dwell on the way Alex's touch had remained with me, lengthier than it ought to have been. Oh, how deeply I longed to experience that sensation once more. It unfolded with the utmost subtlety. Ethan departed early that evening for a dinner meeting. Alex arrived for his regular lesson, yet in the absence of Ethan, he found little motivation to remain. And still he did. We found ourselves in the living room. The lamp emitted a gentle radiance, while the rain outside enveloped the house in a sense of confinement. Nearer. We engaged in conversation for some time, yet the specifics have faded from my memory. The only sensation that enveloped me was the diminishing distance that lay between us. He occupied a space that felt just a touch too intimate, gazing at me for just a moment too long. In the midst of a serene silence, he spoke gently. "You occupy my thoughts far more than is reasonable." My breath hitched. I felt the urge to reject it. I felt an urgent need to interject, to halt the impending event that loomed before us. Yet I refrained. I merely cast my gaze upon him. In that fleeting instant he drew closer. Gradually, with great care, offering me every opportunity to distance myself. Yet I refrained. When his lips met mine it was gentle, somewhat reluctant, as if he were inquiring. In that moment as our lips met it became clear. It was the response I had been seeking. It intensified, gradually at first, then with greater assurance more ravenous. His hand glided softly to my cheek, angling my face toward him, and I felt myself dissolve into him, into the warmth, the desire I hadn't allowed myself to experience in years. As he finally withdrew, our faces lingered in close proximity. Out of breath. Stillness. "Command me to cease," he murmured. Yet the words eluded me, for the simple reason that I wished him not to. As he departed that evening, an overwhelming sense of emptiness enveloped the house once more. Yet this time it carried a different kind of void. It was the sort that left me yearning for another encounter with him, and I sensed deep within that this was merely the start. I promised myself it wouldn't occur once more. That kiss, it was an error in judgment, a fleeting lapse in strength. I meticulously practiced the words I would share with him upon his next arrival. That it was impossible. It was an error. Yet, upon seeing him once more, everything faded away. Ethan had departed for yet another late meeting, while Alex arrived, embodying the same serene composure. We no longer wore masks. As he entered the room, our gazes locked, and I experienced that familiar tug once more. The persistent pain I had been striving to mute. Once more we found ourselves in the living room, engaging in conversation initially, yet the words were fleeting. The silences between them deepened. His hand grazed mine on the couch, gentle, intentional, and this time he took the initiative. He drew closer and pressed his lips against mine once more. Unwavering. Not inquiring. Absolutely. And I kissed him back as if every moment since our last encounter had been a countdown to this very instant. His hands found their way to my waist, drawing me nearer. I found myself dissolving into him, my body surrendering every vow I believed I had made to myself. This time, I let him continue without interruption. We chose not to linger on the couch. We relocated to the guest room, the space that had remained untouched by time. In that stillness of the home, we utterly crossed the threshold. It unfolded at a measured pace. The pace was languid, as if he were committing every detail of my being to memory, as though he could scarcely fathom my presence in that moment. In the aftermath, our words fell silent for a time. He simply embraced me. His fingers meandered over my arm, and for the first time in years I felt seen. As he took his leave, he pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead and murmured, "This feels like more than a singular occurrence." I chose not to correct him, for I had an inkling all along that it would not be. Following that night, nothing remained the same. Alex no longer required a justification. He arrived without any books or assignments for Ethan. He bypassed the facade of instruction altogether. He has just arrived, and I consistently welcomed him inside. It evolved into a cadence. Quiet afternoons filled the empty house. Those twilight hours when Ethan toiled away at the university. Stolen moments in silence, as if they belonged solely to us. As soon as the door clicked shut, his lips would find mine. Profoundly, as if he had been suppressing it for the entirety of the day. As if he were in disbelief that I truly belonged to him. And I allowed myself to become enveloped by it. The connection had transcended mere physical proximity. It was the manner in which he gazed at me, as if he had glimpsed someone truly deserving of desire. It was a sensation I hadn't experienced in ages, so much so that it had nearly slipped from my memory. One afternoon, after we had shared moments in the guest room, he lingered beside me, still and quiet. His fingers glided through my hair, his gaze gentle yet unwavering. "I don't wish to be merely a diversion for you," he murmured softly. I stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. I found myself at a loss for words. "This is more than mere distraction," I murmured at last. Indeed, it was true. I could no longer deceive myself. It transcended merely occupying the voids that Ethan had vacated. The story revolved around Alex. He awakened a sense of vitality within me that I hadn't experienced in years. He restored a sense of self within me. As he departed that day, he made no inquiry about when our paths would cross once more. There was no necessity for him to do so. It was an unspoken truth between us that he would return. Neither of us was ready to bring it to an end. It occurred with such unexpected swiftness. Ethan returned home ahead of schedule. In the living room, Alex cradled my face with his hands, his lips tantalizingly close to mine. The kiss lingered, rich and profound, until the abrupt sound of a car door slamming outside caused us to halt in our tracks. I turned my gaze to the window, and a sudden wave of unease washed over me. The vehicle belonging to Ethan. A wave of panic surged within me. "Go," I breathed softly. With a swift motion, Alex snatched his jacket and glided through the shadows, slipping out the back door just as Ethan stepped through the front. My heart raced fiercely, making it difficult to catch my breath. Ethan entered, keys clutched tightly, blissfully unaware of what awaited him. "Hey," he remarked with an air of nonchalance. "What brings you in here with the windows wide open? The chill is palpable." I let out a laugh, though my voice trembled just a bit. Simply letting the house breathe. He remained oblivious. Naturally, he did not. He pressed a distracted kiss to my cheek, murmuring something about his exhaustion before heading upstairs to take a shower. In an instant, we found ourselves secure. Yet, as the threat receded, a sense of relief eluded me. A different sensation washed over me. A situation more dire. The excitement. When Alex sent me a message later, "I apologize. I never intended to take that chance. Yet, I find myself unable to quell this desire for you." I never said he shouldn't return. I informed him of the time to return. As I lay in bed that night next to Ethan, a truth I had long resisted began to surface within me. The near brush with discovery failed to instill any fear within me. It intensified my desire for him. Today, Alex paid another visit. It had an unmistakable quality about it. He held back from kissing me at first. He didn't extend his hand toward me as he often did. Instead, he settled into the chair opposite me at the kitchen table, his gaze intense in a manner I had never witnessed before. "I can't continue down this path," he murmured softly. A weight settled upon my chest. "What are you up to?" I inquired, despite the fact that I was already aware. He inclined his body slightly, his tone gentle yet resolute. "Creeping about. Slipping away quietly, as if I carry the weight of our connection in secret. It feels as though I'm merely a secret you've chosen to conceal." I gulped, rendered speechless. "I desire more than fragments of you," he pressed on. "I desire to be by your side, not merely during moments of ease. Not merely lurking in the shadows." His words settled heavily in my chest. For a fragment of my being yearned for precisely that. Yet how could I possibly voice it? "Alex, it's more complicated than that," I murmured. "It is straightforward," he remarked, his eyes unwavering. "You either desire this to be genuine or you do not. If this is merely an attempt to occupy the void your husband created, I will turn and leave at this very moment. Yet if it transcends that," he hesitated, his tone gentler in that moment, "then I can no longer maintain the facade." A constriction gripped my throat, for it transcended mere existence. It was more than mere solitude. It was more than mere longing. It was indeed him. The manner in which he perceived me. How he reignited my sense of vitality. I remained silent, offering no verbal response. I extended my hand across the table, gently grasping his. In that stillness, the answer revealed itself to him. He pressed his lips softly against my hand, his gaze locked onto mine. "I adore you," he murmured gently. I certainly didn't advise him against it, for beneath the surface my heart held a love for him as well. It no longer felt like a secret liaison. That night was different. Not when Alex arrived after Ethan had departed for a weekend conference. This time there was simply no justification. No instruction. There are no documents available. He simply arrived for me. As I swung the door open, silence enveloped us. He remained mute. He entered, gently cradled my face in his hands, and kissed me as if that moment had been a lifetime in the making. I acted without a moment's pause. I returned his kiss as if I were already his, as if I had always been meant to be there. We took our time. We traversed the house with a deliberate slowness, as if we were asserting our presence in every corner where we had previously only borrowed fleeting moments. The heart of the home. The corridor. And at last the bedroom, the space I once shared with my husband. It ought to have seemed amiss. Yet it did not. It seemed destined to happen. This time Alex's touch felt distinct, almost electric. It was more than mere hunger. It was a profound sense of awe, as if he cradled something delicate yet invaluable. And when it concluded, we remained still. He lingered by my side, his hand gently placed over my heart, his gaze probing into mine with a silent fervor that I found impossible to resist. "I will do whatever it takes," he murmured. "I desire a future shared with you." Tears threatened to spill from my eyes, for the simple reason that I desired it as well. Yet the words remained trapped within me, unspoken. I had no need to. He was already aware. As he finally departed that night, I lingered by the window, observing his car fade into the shadows of the street. And I came to a realization I had been reluctant to acknowledge. The moment had passed. It is no longer possible to return. It's far too late to disguise it as mere loneliness. It's far too late to feign it was merely an error. A fragment of my soul was already his. And nothing would ever return to its former state.